What advice would you give to listeners that are in corporate America, making a good living, have a nice house, kids' college fund is saved for, they're saving for it, but they're miserable. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough scenario, and you and I have both been there. And I'm really careful how I address this topic because I'm not naive enough to think that um, everyone has put themselves in the same position that they can just say, "I'm out." In other words, we have commitments, we have bills, we have things we must do, and for most of us, as our income rises, so do our commitments. So if you find yourself in that position, you're wondering, is there a better way? I'm here to tell you the answer is yes, there is a better way, but it ain't easy. And you might not even be in the right environment for that better way to be embraced. So you got to weigh, you have to weigh the scenario in front of you. Is keeping my head down, kind of slogging along the way that you and I did for a couple decades plus, is that the be all end all for us? And if the answer is yes, I got nothing but love for you. I get it. But I will also tell you, and I go back to, and I would love your take on this, Roger. When I first entered the workplace, I brought a tremendous amount of optimism and eagerness. Dude, I wanted to do big things. I wanted to be somebody in the corporate world. It was something I've always wanted to do. I lost that though, and that was replaced with apathy. And my sense is, now that I've traveled so much and spoken about the book so often, I'm not alone in that loss, losing the energy, the eagerness, the optimism. If you're in that scenario and you're questioning, is there something bigger for you? Am I missing out on fulfillment? Do I have a chance to have a greater contribution to this planet and those around me? It starts with a choice, and that choice usually requires us to make some sacrifices. You may have to take 1 or 2 steps backward before making 3 or 4 steps forward, but it all starts with a choice. You don't have to accept the environment you're in. You may not be able to change it, but you can either get along with it. And again, nothing but love for you because of your commitments. I get that. But on the other side of that challenge of going to do something different, maybe starting your own business, maybe going to a new firm that has, maybe something a little more to offer, will allow you to be the genuine and authentic you, the one that you brought to the workplace when you first entered the workplace. It's out there. You just got to find it. And you may swing a few times and miss a few times, but it's out there. But it all starts with that choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when it granulized for me is when I made a switch from one firm to another, expecting it to be, well, but this is the different ownership group. It's a different modality within healthcare that I was in pharma. And then I realized, like, day 2, oh my gosh, it's the same exact
Took that long,
job,
huh?
right? Same job with different problems.
Yeah.
And then I just realized, okay, this cycle is going to rinse and repeat. And I watched so many of my former colleagues, I'll see it on LinkedIn, celebrating a new position at such and such. I'm thinking, I know why you switched, because you're looking for it, but it probably not going to, you may, but you probably won't find it there, because
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Where do
No
you
doubt.
see, Kyle, if you could say that, hey, there's one of the bigger, there's, many misconceptions, but what is one of the bigger misconceptions that leaders have when it comes to specifically team building to create organizational success? So if we focus on team building, where do you see, because, I think what you've said earlier without saying it is, there's a lack of real genuine teamwork, of real, I got your back, we're all in this together in the corporate environment, especially the bigger the company. Where do you see the misconception around the leaders have around team building?
I think it's well, I'll put it this way. In my mind, the biggest travesty inside of the business world is this lack of humanity that it surfaces the moment we step into the workplace, whether it's virtual, we're on a Zoom call, working from home, or whether we step into a brick and mortar location. The human characteristics that we live with every single day. We're wired to be communal. We're wired to help one another. We're wired to receive help. But over time, as industry has evolved, as leadership has evolved, as humans have evolved, we've been conditioned to lose that bit of humanity. Not entirely. I'm not here to say that leaders don't care, but what has happened, and I'm Exhibit A. We focus more, we being leaders, we focus more on our own accolades, our own growth, our own success measurements, whatever those are. And in my case, and I think it's not uncommon, it's at the peril of those around us. So we think we step into the workplace, I'm going to put myself in a position to get promoted, take on more and do more, that which some mistake or conflate with having to do less. And that could be the scenario, right? You get this authoritative title and you're allowed to just say, because I said so, and you can deliver results. You can't sustain those results. But the biggest mistake is assuming that as I grow, I have less responsibility and I can just tell people to do things. When our approach should be the exact opposite. As I grow and take on more and do more, that means I have an opportunity to impact more people, to have a greater impact on those around me. And if we think the growth is just about paychecks and bigger roles and bigger responsibilities, larger teams, you might achieve those. But when you say the bigger the role, the more I take on, the bigger the team, the greater the impact I can have, enabling those around me to grow, to take on more, to do bigger things, to help them on their quote unquote journey, that's where the value is. But we lose this humanity and it becomes almost a dog eat dog mentality that for someone to win, someone else must lose. And I subscribed to that for a couple of decades. I don't any longer. And I will tell you, the results come so much more easily when our time and energy is invested in people instead of the metrics will come. So I think if you enter that scenario thinking life gets easier, the job gets easier as you take on more because you've got an army of people around you, or perhaps you're in an organization that gives you all the resources you need. Well, that just means you have to place an even greater emphasis on those around you because all of the hard skills, the technology, those things are in place. That's when we have to go even deeper on the people.